Look at that. If you didn't just leak your screen, your insides must be dead. If you came here looking for a tasty hole, you found one. If you aren't making your own chicken Kievs, now that should be illegal. Oh, let's get into it. Today, we're going to make chicken Kiev from scratch. Now, cooking time for this recipe will be around about 20 minutes. Or for those of you who love to use my beer timer, you're looking at a 1 beer cook. Cheers! By liking this video, you're jumping the gun and you might be disappointed. Garlic butter is a big part of making a chicken Kiev. Let's make a simple garlic butter, starting with 100 grams of softened unsalted butter. I prefer to control the salt by adding it. 3 tablespoons of chopped fresh parsley. You could use dry if you wish to ruin this dish. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Crushed garlic in butter tends to be off-putting. Using powder is best, but it is stronger. So use 1/4 teaspoon for every clove needed. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Kosher is best, or use cooking salt, not that fine table salt. Then all you have to do is mix it up thoroughly. And I like to use a fork. Then we want to shape it into a rectangle shape on a piece of baking paper, roughly 6 centimeters wide by 10 centimeters long. Now put this in the fridge to harden up. I tend to make my garlic butter the day before I need it. That way it's already firm and ready to use. For this recipe, we'll need a couple of chicken breasts. As always, I popped down to see Mick out at Gippsland Premium Meats, and he bestowed upon me a couple of lovely chook boobs that he marinated in store himself. Even though I told him to stop, you are hurting that chicken. Now clearly Mick didn't hurt the chicken. It was dead when he got to it. Now we need to flatten out this chicken, so we're going to lay down some cling wrap, slice it off. Now you can either grab some tongs or put on a rubber glove like me. Lay down chicken fillet number 1 and chicken fillet number 2. Remove the glove and cover these with more cling wrap, and remove cling wrap box and the rubbish. And now we need to pound away using either a meat hammer, a rolling pin, or like me, a burger smasher. Ideally, you want the chicken breast roughly about 5 mil thick. That should do. We can now remove the top layer of cling film, and we're going to lightly salt them and pepper, and then just drag that aside. By sharing this video, you're showing others how a butcher should prepare his chicken. Remember the garlic butter? Just grab it out of the tray. We're going to cut this lengthways to create 2 even pieces. You want a fresh piece of cling wrap, fully glove up, place 1 chicken breast down, add the garlic butter, fold the ends over, and wrap up our little parcel. Wrap it up in the Glad wrap, twist it to compress into a nice even shape, also known as a roulade. We're just going to pop these into a tray, and then they're going into a freezer for 30 minutes so they firm up and help hold their shape. By slightly freezing the breasts, they hold together a lot better while coating them. To coat the chicken Kievs, we're going to need 3 containers. Into container number 1, we're going to add 1/2 cup of plain flour and push it aside. Into container number 2, we'll crack 1 egg and discard the shell, and a second egg. And again, we don't need that shell. Grab a whisking implement. I'm using a fork, and just whisk up the eggs. Once whisked, push aside. Into container number 3, we're going to place 1 cup of panko crumbs. Grab the chicken logs out of the freezer and remove the cling wrap. Firstly, placing it into the flour, just making sure it all gets covered, and the ends. And then into the egg wash. Trying to work as quickly as we can. Don't forget those ends. Let the excess drain off. Grab a handful of panko crumbs. Place it in the container and sprinkle the panko crumbs on top. And turn it around and cover it. Just using a little bit of pressure, just so the panko crumbs stick. And then place it back into the tray. And do the same for the second one. Into the flour. Then into the egg. Into the crumbs. Swap hands. Don't forget the ends. And back in the tray. Now we're going to pop these back in the freezer for another 30 minutes, and that is going to do two things. It'll help the chicken Kievs keep their shape, but it's also going to allow that panko crumb mix to stick to it a lot better. So they're going in the freezer. Freezing also helps stop any butter leakage. So in essence, it's going to keep it moist. Smart! Today I'm using a 57cm Weber kettle, and I'm pairing it up with one charcoal basket because I want to be cooking indirectly with a heat of 180 degrees Celsius today. How I'll do this is by placing the charcoal basket to one side of the charcoal grate, and then I'll fill a chimney starter with lumped charcoal just over halfway, light it up. Once it's all ashed over, I'll dump it into that charcoal basket. Carefully put the grill back in, then pop the lid back on, opening all the vents, top and bottom, and we're going to let that warm up for 10 minutes. And while that's warming up, I'll turn on my deep fryer and fill it with canola oil. And I want this oil at 180 degrees Celsius. It's just going to help fry up these chicken Kievs first, because that's how you make them. You fry them first, then you bake them. If you want to argue about healthy oils and non-healthy oils, stop. Or next time I do a cook with oil, I'll use motor oil. We are now ready to cook the chicken Kievs, and we're going to start off by deep frying them. That's how you get that authentic outer crispy flavour and texture. Frying them for 2 to 3 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius is enough to make them golden brown. Don't forget to turn them over a little bit. Oh. Now, they still will be raw at this point, but they're going to have a nice golden crispy outer. So just going to place them on a wire rack over a tray, and then put them straight in the Weber with the lid vent directly over our food for 15 minutes. Or when the flesh is reading 74 degrees Celsius internally. As we all know, that means we are now dealing with no death chicken. And just remember, when you're using an instant read thermometer to check the internal temp, you don't want to poke in too far, hitting that butter reservoir and letting it all leak out. You can use an instant read thermometer to check the internal temp of the chicken. This is less intrusive than ramming your probe into the chicken, isn't it, Mick? Ta-da! The chicken Kievs are ready. Add them to a plate and sprinkle with some freshly chopped parsley. And it's now time to cut one open and see that glorious money shot. Oh, look at that. If you didn't just leak your screen, your insides must be dead. You can't get much moister than that. Smut! The only thing left to do is try them. Oh.